Hello everybody and welcome. We're going to be talking about distribution and combining like terms today, some fine expressions. These are all things that you guys should be pretty familiar with at this point in your math career. If you're not, if this is all just like craziness to you, fear not. I will enlighten you with this video today. Okay, so first things first, when we talk about like terms. So like terms are basically, or when we talk about terms, these are when we look at an expression like this. And an expression is different from an equation because it doesn't have an equal sign. Without an equal sign, we can't solve for anything, right? So this is just an expression. So all we can do is simplify it, basically. And if we're looking at something like this, a like term, or a term specifically, would be stuff that are separated by the additions and subtractions. You might have things that are multiplying or dividing, but those are combined into a term with whatever they're multiplying or combining with. Okay, so terms are separated by addition and subtraction signs. Now when we're looking for like terms share the same variable, or they share not having a variable, right? They're just normal numbers. So if we look at number 2 here, I can see like, hey, there's an n term and there's an n term, right? Those are like terms. I can combine those two things. When I combine them, I just add them together. So n plus n is like 1n plus 1n, right? If there's no number there, there's an invisible 1. So 1n plus 1n would be 2n. Okay, not too tough, right? And then do we have any other like terms? Yeah, we've got this -5 and this -6. When we're looking at terms, we always kind of pull the sign in front of them, right? Both these ends were positive. This has a plus sign, and if there's no sign in front, which is only with the first term, really, it's a positive, right? It'll tell you if it's a negative. So we always take those terms with them when we combine them. So we can combine those two numbers, -5 plus -6 would be like -5 minus 6. It's going to go more negative, right? So it would become -11 or -11. Now, these are not like terms, right? So that's as far as we can go. We've simplified it. That's our answer. 2n minus 11. That's all you got to do. Just combine those like terms. Okay? If we look at the next one, we've only got two terms here, right? We've got a -9x. And we've got a positive 9x. Okay, they both have x's, so those are like terms. So we can combine them. Now, when we're combining numbers with variables, we're basically just adding the numbers in front, right? -9 plus 9 is 0. Now, this is what I usually get, and this is something that will be marked wrong. 0x. Wrong. Right? Why is that wrong? Well, because it's not simplified as much as it can get. Technically, that's true. Those 9's cancel each other out, and you're left with 0 times x. But we can go further than that, right? Because we know that 0 times any number is going to be just 0. So if you ever have a 0 as your coefficient. Coefficient is the number in front of the variable. If you ever have a 0 as your coefficient, then that will be just a 0. That term goes away. It's gone, right? 0 times a million is 0. 0 times quadrillion, 0, right? And same with divide, right? 0 divided by 5, 0. Right? No matter how much you divide nothing, you still have nothing. If I have $0 and I divide my $0, 10 times, guess what? Still broke. Okay, that's your like terms. Okay, number 6 here. So this is when we get into the distributive property. So distributive property, that's basically when we're multiplying more than one term by the same number. You usually have a nice indicator that that's happening because you see these parentheses, right? So parentheses means that whatever is on the outside here multiplying is applying to both of these terms. So what we do with the distributive property is we distribute it. I know, weird, right? Distribute it. We multiply that 2 to both of the terms inside the parenthesis. So 2 times 6 is 12. So you got 12x, and 2 times 4 is 8. So minus 8. Now these are not like terms, so that's it. I'm done. Voila. Okay, same with the next one. Now, one thing that's important to look at with distributive properties is the sign in front of the number does get distributed with the number, right? So since this is a -4, that negative needs to distribute to the two terms as well, right? So -4 times negative, or that's a positive 7, right? And a negative times a positive is a negative. So 4 times 7 is 28, right? So -4 times 7 would be -28. So -28. And then negative times a negative, again, we always look at the sign in front, right? Negative times a negative is a positive. So -4 times -4 is positive 16. So plus 16b. So instead of that negative there, it turned into a positive because I multiplied it by a negative number. And again, these are different or not like terms, so that's as simple as I can get it. -28 plus 16b. Now, generally speaking, you like to put the variable first. Whoops. That's why we use pencils. So 16b minus 28. I think we usually account for both possibilities on most things this year. It's not super important at this stage, but it does help you as you get further in math to organize variable than constants. And there is a proper order to get to it, and you will hear about that a lot in secondary 2 next year. That's when it really starts to matter. Okay. Next one. So we have a distribution property here. Now, which number do I distribute? I've got two numbers outside these parentheses, right? Well, when we looking at something with a parenthesis, the number in front, so on the left side, is the number that's actually interacting with the parenthesis. Anything after the parenthesis, and it is adding or subtracting, and then it's just an extra term afterwards. Okay, so we would distribute the 4 and then combine like terms. So the first thing we do is going to distribute that 4. So 4 times 9 is 36b, and then 4 times 8 is 32, and then I've still got that minus 7b there. It is still there. It did not magically disappear like sometimes happens when we're doing math, right? Guys, I've never had numbers magically disappear when you're doing your work, right? That doesn't happen. Okay. Now we do have a like term here, right? We've got two numbers with a variable of b. So we can combine those two terms, 36b and negative 7b. So they're positive 36, negative 7, that's like subtracting 7, right? So it would become 29b. And then the plus 32 is still there. And that's as simple as I can get it. So it is done. Now, this problem right here, this is where we probably experience the most mistakes. Okay? There's a very common mistake that always happens here, and you guys looking at this, some of you probably can see what that common mistake is already. What I often see is I see students combining these two numbers first. And that is not what you do. These are technically not like terms because, again, this is multiplying with two other terms. They cannot be combined with this because this number right here with the negative, right, is attached to these two terms in the parentheses. This negative 5 is not. It's just an extra number. Okay? So in order to simplify this, and there's an order in which we usually do things with equations, you have to distribute first. And that will always be the case, is to distribute first. when looking at an equation. Okay, so very first thing we want to do is get rid of that parenthesis, that grouping there. So we distribute the negative 6 to both of those terms, and we'd get negative 5 is still there, and then negative 6n, so minus 6n, and that's a positive 10, so it's going to become negative. Negative 6 times 10 is negative 60. Okay, now looking here, do I have any like terms? Yeah, I've got two numbers without variables, negative 60 and negative 5. So I can combine those. So negative 5, negative 60, it's going to go more negative, right? So it'd be negative 65. And that is as simple as I can get it. And that is your video. So if you have any questions or concerns, make sure you ask your teachers. We're here to help. We want to help. You just got to ask us, and we will help you for sure. Okay, I'll see you guys out there.